Alright folks, and welcome back to another episode of Casting Conflicts. Of course, joined by Slash today as we are going to jump in. Last match, Jump versus Asteroid, a pretty good one and a pretty interesting one in our leaderboard standings. But we're not here to talk about that one today. Of course, we are here to talk about Triple J taking on Vesa. Now, Slash, this is going to be an interesting matchup here because, of course, we saw from Vesa last time that he wasn't really 100%. The deck choice could have, was slightly questionable. And meanwhile, Jay has got a whole host of things going on in his deck. How do you think today's matchup is going to go? What the hell do you think is going to go between these two players?
I'd be very, very surprised if JJJ managed to slip by and even take a match off of vesaven. Vesaven's such a powerhouse of a player. He's very clearly come to win, and he has such a well-structured burn/knights deck that he has, versus what in my mind is almost a mismatch of stall that JJJ runs, which simply the burn will be able to counteract to a level that it's simply too fast, it's too furious, and there's no way that JJJ can actually slow him down enough to bring out those late power game units, which could win him a game.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the hand, or looking at the deck, excuse me, again, things like Blue Fire, Flame Storm, Drain Life, to a degree Flame Shield as well. All interesting spells that can really just bring Vesa a quick victory if he can manage to slip by. There are some nice tools in Jay's deck I want to give him credit for. Of course, Pillar, the funny card that it is. Things like Cleric, which could give him some good healing. Same with the Priest and the Paladin. But yeah, I do kind of agree with you that I think it's going to be predominantly Vesa's set to take, I believe. It's just an interesting mismatch of cards from Jay, honestly. I mean, look, Hall of Winds. Did you expect to see Hall of Winds in the level of play that we have here, honestly?
I think the last time I've seen it, it works, but it's one of those where at a certain point you can always have 3 cards off if the rest of your cards are just top tier, and I don't think that JJJ is bringing that to the table today.
Right. So, I mean, with that being said, there is only one way to find out if what we're saying is true. However, you want to get into game number 1?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, folks, and back to the battlefield we go here, of course. Opening up a bit interesting is Jay's hand. It looks like LoreMaster, Fortify. A couple of interesting choices in here, but this is a nicer starting hand. 2 books, Pillar. Gonna be difficult turn 1, turn 2, but hopefully he can slide into these books and get some additional draw going. Slash, what are you looking for, though, in this matchup? How do you think... Well, actually, no, the better question is, how do you think this hand looks for him?
I think, honestly, this isn't too bad of a hand. I mean, seeing the pressure come in turn 2 isn't exactly what you want to see, but I think that JJJ running Crusaders here, he can take some damage on face and not really sweat about it. I think the biggest thing is whether or not vesaven's running a lot of burn in his deck. Because if he is, then he can deal with these freezing pillars just fine. But if he isn't, which is kind of what his MO as a player is, a single freezing pillar can absolutely just basically ruin his day. And
Right.
it's one of those things where he has 2 freezing pillars in hand. He's always going to be up on draw. Well, he won't always be up on draw, but he's going to always have decent draw. It's a very scary situation to be in as vesaven to have it. And the reclaim coming out and actually giving him value, that's incredible.
I think this is the one of in his deck, too, so Reclaim making an appearance now is a bit interesting. But on the Vesa's side, you mentioned if he isn't running a lot of burns. I mean, knowing from the deck that we looked at earlier, of course, things like Drain Life, Dragon's Fire, Flamestorm, all lurking inside of Vesa's deck, so he's got options here. Forgetting if the Blue Firebolt was a sideboard option, but we did see that as well. So he's definitely got some burn to maybe deal with these freezing pillars, but it'll be interesting to see if he can actually bring those out and make good use of them here. As Jay does set the LoreMaster in the back corner, looking for some additional draw power for the deck. Vesa rushes the Cleric, rushes 2 for that matter, and oh boy, that's looked like a freezing pillar if I ever saw one.
Do you think that vesaven will possibly actually get lots and lots of value out of this Luminaris because he is running knights here. It's one of those where I think that possibly Luminaris might be an extremely deadly card here, especially in this position where he's down on where his opponent's down on health. He has the buff, and while that buff's not going to last forever, it's still on right now in Luminaris. I don't think there'd be enough gold generated. JJJ is going to have to play another freezing pillar.
Yeah, he would have to in a bit of an awkward position. If he could even get a unit down to play the pillar, I mean, Illuminaris right now would take out pretty much everything on this board, leaving Jay with no room to summon a unit turn 7 to even get a pillar down. So, but I don't know if Ace is running Luminaris either. I don't. I'm right now. I'm not remembering if that was in the deck
I think he
profile.
runs a single copy.
So, I mean, that would be as huge as the reclaim is in Jay's hand, just the odds of that coming in. Frog Prince looks like it's going to be the card instead, so we're not going to see it. There's another pillar setup if Jay wants to take
I
it.
I don't think he plays pillar here. I think he moves his lumberjack one forward into that position.
Well, he's going for the pillar instead. Probably going to set up an armory with the leftover gold because he can afford it. And then, of course, just pass back probably from here. Is he going to try and sneak a cleric heal? Looks like he is. Gets another castle heal in. Bring him back up to nearly as much as he was at the beginning. Just saw the off. Really negating a lot of the damage Vesa did early on with that knight and the miner. I'm not liking the position for Vesa at this particular moment. I'm going to be honest with you. He's got a lot of his board frozen here. Great chain position. Mordok can maybe pop in and get some free units off of the frozen clerics. It's not looking good for Vesa. I will give him that.
I think we really saw the power of the flying books there as they managed to pull out 2 blue fire bolts from hand. And that's not really a position you ever want to be in.
Oh, and the reclaim
This
we're
is super
hitting
deadly
now.
here. Oh, I would have loved to see him hit cleric there instead, but
Yeah, I think he messed up the calculations with the chain, not realizing that he had enough to deal with the lightning blade and not give
I
Vesa
think
the
he has
extra
to leave these
cards.
frozen. Oh, I really dislike that because he's now like in many ways he's leaving.
This opens up for a big swordsman if
Yeah,
that's an option in this deck. I mean, sure, the armory is still back there and fine, but an armory does so much. Oh, and there's the Luminaris. A few turns late, but it does hit the board.
I think that was a very interesting. I think I might have played it towards the Frog Prince just because I'm more scared almost of that cleric than I am, and say a lightning blade on it than I would be of the double draw because JJJ's had the double draw this entire time.
Pretty much, and what feels like is going to be he's going to keep going on that path with the second Tarius popping up in the corner here.
I find that
Uh,
very, very interesting in this archetype. That being said, I mean, when your opponent's playing Inferno units, it's kind of hard to not to make a case to not run with it.
Of course, Drain Life look like hits the Cleric to open up the Frog Prince to remove Monk. Okay, so we're getting close to this castle here. Jay flaunting the fact that he's got 2 Morlocks on deck, though, to work with. That could be a bit of an equalizer here if we see those at the board. Of course, generating some additional units here, being able to probably trade in with the Frog Prince, maybe take out the Furnace Knight, clean up with Tarius with 1 Morlock. Seems like it's pretty nice value. We'll see, of course, the Banshee hit the board here. That's going to take out the Furnace Knight. Yep, as we just mentioned. Tarius comes up and will bop the Frog Prince as well and pretty much clear out for Vesa, or clear Vesa's board, excuse me, here.
Uh,
This is
I think I would have
problematic.
liked to see Armory Monk there, as Monk could have triggered the while the Monk wouldn't heal anything, he could have triggered the initial resolve and then cleaned up with Terius, and then possibly used the Terius files to get additional draw.
Right.
And while you are losing your Terius, it's honestly, in my opinion, not that big of a deal. I think Mordok Shockwave is going to be a massive play here, however.
You think so?
I think that's what I would have done immediately, but
No.
not what JJJ is going for.
I feel like Jay's that player who I don't know if he's too new. Maybe not too new, but I definitely feel like he's newer to the competitive scene, when we see plays like this, which me and you, of course, normally wouldn't go for, like you just mentioned here, you would probably go for the Mordock Shockwave that would have seen a bit, maybe a bit more value. Vesa
It's
looking
just
to toss
over.
the surrender
Vesson
though.
knows it.
I was gonna say, yeah, Vesa not really being able to draw any sort of cards here, or at least lack of resources towards the later half of that game, I think really did hurt him. And of course, I mean, using the bolts on the books rather than saving them for the pillars also definitely hurt. But I mean,
I think the freezing pillars really are what stole that game away there for
yeah.
JJJ, and the inclusion of just that powerhouse of that powerhouse of a push, which was just stopped by a single card, is really quite something.
Right, certainly. But let's go ahead and look at the post-match here. Breakdown happened for you in game number 1. All right, folks, of course, back after match number 1. And what an interesting match, to say the least here. From the double freezing pillars, we saw Jay pull out to really stall the board to the blue fires that Vesa could have used on said pillars. Slash, I mean, just a very interesting game between these guys.
I think it's very telling of where Vesvin's at his level of practice, that when he's playing blue fire bolts to take out books, I don't think that's the play he had. At the same time, for all I know, he had a really bad hand at that point, and there was no way he wanted to be doing that. But I find that hard to believe when he had that double cleric push.
I feel like the big problem with Vesa and this deck is that he really tends to throw out all of his resources at once and just hope that they stick to the board. I mean, we saw how quickly that he, expended the blue fireballs at the tip of a hat, and how much that put him, how low that put him in terms of resource to use later on when he needed them to clear out things like the pillars. It's just kind of telling that I don't really feel like he's at his strongest with this deck, and seeing him play with this continually. I mean, he's probably going to switch out of it, hopefully. But, just this deck, I just don't feel like he's clicking with it as well as he did, say his mid-range decks that he's kind of known for.
Definitely, definitely. I think also the bigger aspect that I think I've seen lately is that I haven't seen vesaven online in who knows how long, and for him, this is a return to the game almost. And while we're glad to have him back, it's a shame though that he doesn't have the time any longer to simply be putting in the hours and have that just instant, almost deathly instinct of about when to push and when to hold any longer.
Yeah, the sense is being dulled. Hopefully he can see that turn around in game 2. Of course, maybe shake off some of the card rust from some time off, and hopefully push through for a game 2 win. But there's only one way we can find that out. Of course, game number 2 now on the way. Triple J with the set point.
What kind of deck do you think that vesaven's gone for here, Red?
Well, Slash, you weren't here for Vesa's last CC, so I know what he's running. And you probably have an idea, too.
Is this Ranger Danger?
No.
Is this Ranger Danger? I got a little suspicion this might be Ranger Danger.
Oh, my very smart, my very wise co-caster here. Of course, now Vesa has gone back to the mid-range bread and butter. The one that we saw him absolutely decimate. I forgot he was going up again. I believe it was Astro. He absolutely decimated Astro with this build. But of course, it's just because he's so used to the colors, he's so used to the play style, and we're already going to see a turn 1 hovel. Great stuff. Great stuff, turn 1 from Vesa. But how do you think this deck has a chance of, English, how good of a chance do you think this deck has at beating the stall that Arm can provide here, or Jay can provide here with Pillars?
I think, honestly, the biggest question is whether or not I think that Lightning Blade is the one saving grace that Arm/JJJ has here. Unless he pulls one of that, I think he's simply dead in the water. While the clerics are good on holding off, it's along the order of a single buff that's required to, in essence, just kill that cleric to make Vesaven's life almost just a free win. And I bet we're going to see like a blacksmith come out here or some other buff. Yeah, blacksmith right there. Yep. And it's just one of those where, because we have all 9 buffs there, it's going to be an extremely difficult matchup no matter how far vesaven gets ahead.
right here, and I'm just
So,
kind of waiting to see what Jay is pulling for turns here. A lot of his low-costing stuff at the moment here are mainly priests. So I'm curious to see if he plays both of them here in an attempt to kind of rally for power on the board here, just trying to outmuscle a lot of Vasa's units here. Yeah, go for the Elvish Thief first. That's going to get the Cleric a guaranteed heal.
I think this just got a lot scarier here for Vesaven, and I think he knows that. At the same time, it's one of those where after he clears up this cleric, which honestly shouldn't be too difficult for him, I think it's going to be an extremely one-sided pounding match almost because you
Just
have those
looking at the
strong,
hand too. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, those strong centaurs and those big strong units which you just simply can't um you can't in many times you can't block all sides of a freezing pillar to ensure that any kind of companion spam won't get onto it.
hmm
I think also though, like if Beastmaster comes out next turn, that's a 6+6 almost worth of value. Well, +6 damage total on that single Beastmaster, which is incredible.
there's a lot that Vesa has options to if he can kind of survive this initial onslaught. Which I mean, judging by the hands and the cards he's additionally pulling, I think that's definitely going to be the case here. I'm curious as to whether or not Jay decides to go against the rat here as a free exchange, or going for some castle damage, going up against, the priest can trade, the top priest, the weakest one, can trade with that, front rat, get two in, but looks like, of course, you're going to go down a bit here, so the bottom rat being knocked off by a cleric. The weakest priest, okay, still interacts with that rat regardless. Some other priests are moving around here. Lumberjack, the only other option that Jay has. I don't know about the Fortify. I'd actually hold on to it knowing what Vase is packing in the deck, honestly. Funny enough, I think this is the build where he's running Serpent Witch in.
I think that Fortify can really be a key card against the bleed and any kind of stun.
hmm
At the same time, I think that at 5 health, it's just going to die outright simply because you only need a 3 damage unit right now to kill it off. Interesting to see it played up top. I would imagine that means
Oh
that
no.
Vesa has something on the bottom.
I don't think he does. That probably was a somewhat of a misplay. We'll see if Jay shotguns the Lightning Blade preemptively to get rid of this armory and slow down Vase's globals, but I do
I would
think
hit
that.
Rat Hovel right now because you already have 2 buffs out.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about the Rod Hovel completely. Yeah, probably better to shotgun the Hovel then. Just because we need to stop these rat generators, kind of get ourselves on an even ground here.
I think that's the play he's going to go for, especially now that we see Cleric hitting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and there's a Lightning Blade shotgun taking out one of the two rat, or, actually one of the two buildings. I almost said one of the two rat hovels.
It
That priest will die though.
it almost hurts to have
No.
the Lightning Blade go on Priest. I dislike that Fortify play. I
I
think if there's
sh
anything lurking in Vesaven's hand, it's simply going to result in a board clear here, which is going to be really bad for JJJ looking at the cards he has in hand.
Yeah, although I'm kind of, I don't know, I feel slightly optimistic for Jay. I mean, seeing Vesa play the way he did that last turn, he could have removed the cleric, could have defended a little bit better, in my opinion, here. I mean, if, obviously, probably still would have taken that big lightning blade, but I still, I don't know. I feel like that just wasn't the play to go, and I'm hoping Vesa can prove me wrong and make a big recovery here. Going for
And that's not what you
Minotaur.
want to see. That's just not what you want to see when you have that cleric to kill. Also, it's just a bad position he's in that he has a free cleric kill and he can't capitalize on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering. I don't really feel like this is normal Vesa gameplay that we're seeing. It feels like someone else is behind the wheel, obviously. Honestly, not obviously. Alright, Temple goes down, trade for the Minotaur. Gives Vesa the board, though. Okay, could see some big stuff coming here now. Minor
Uh,
doesn't really feel big.
unless JJJ draws some lower cost units or some form of say pillar or freeze. I think this is almost concerning to me, seeing the positioning simply because with those +2 damage buffs, it's very easy to get into a position where all of a sudden you're just taking lots and lots and lots of damage. I
Hmm.
think that scope there actually was not just to take board control, but also to be able to hit this Temple of the Five Gods.
Yeah.
Um,
It's big if we take out the temple now. This means that Mordok, of course. Ooh, and the dagger follow-up, taking out the Tarias, followed up by the call for aid. Okay, we're going to see some good recovery from Vesa. We're going to start to see this board kind of reel back a bit more in his favor. Now, the Mordok, if that comes out, it has to go into the miner, but it won't trade. Okay, actually, the Lumberjack makes it a lot easier to do this. Oh, 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 okay. Going for the rat to keep the Mordok alive. Any thoughts on that, Slash?
um, I really really dislike uh this lumberjack positioning. I understand why he chose it, but it's just opening himself up for either Ranger or Mordok. I mean, it's honestly,
He's
I
flashing
think it was just
temple
a
as if he wants the
massive.
chain set up. That's what this is to me. A big signal for, hey, please fall into my chain. I really need this, bro. Oh, and that doesn't help the situation.
Honestly, I think this was game right here.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you. There's just a lot that's coming down. The big buffs out of the armory and blacksmith paired well with the fact that arm doesn't really have a lot. The armory has a virtually dead draw in an already losing game. I do think this is going to be Vase's game to win, and I think we do go to a game three. And then yeah,
Yeah, and there he knows it's over.
he there. So he's
Well
gonna.
played by vesaven.
Yeah, agreed. I will say though, for most of that match, I still hold true to the fact that I didn't really feel like I saw Vesa playing. There's a lot of questionable moves in that game where I feel like if it was another player, if it was another deck, those mistakes could have been easily capitalized off of and maybe could have cost him the set right there. Not saying that Jay's a bad player, but I think he's still relatively inexperienced to kind of pick up on those things. But still, like I just didn't like the way Vesa played. I, again, felt like it was a different person. I don't know if you can, you know, confirm or deny that yourself. I don't know. That's just how I'm feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
Regardless, though, let's go ahead and take a look, of course, post-match for game number two. A couple things to talk about, so we'll go ahead and get right into that. All right, guys, of course, game number two just wrapping up here, and oh boy, what a game that was. I mean, I think I pretty much said all I had to at the closing of that match. I feel like while Vase's deck, came out on top, did what it needed to do, the plays were a bit off. I did not feel like the plays were at its strongest from Vesa, and again, I think that pertains to some potential rust I think that he still has from taking time away, from not really being as active as he once was on the ladder, and I think that really just showcased here out in full.
Yeah, I think it was very weird for him not to trade with that cleric. And while he did have such a dominant match, I think it was much more because of the deck combination he was running than it was actually the uh the almost tactics he played in it. JJJ, I think, also had. We're really seeing that in this matchup that he's having with vesaven as a player. Vesaven's such a early to mid game player, and JJJ is such a late, like very late mid game player that it's this early aggression is really either depleting resources or creating hands where JJJ just can't do anything against him. And I think uh, that the Mordok play really highlighted that when he could have cleared off some stuff and JJJ simply didn't take that option to do it. But I think it was a really nice comeback here from vesaven.
Right. I think questionable plays on both ends, but of course, Vesa picking up the win is always nice to see. Of course, this does lead us into a game three, though, both players with a set point. Will Jay walk away with the win, or will Vesa find redemption for his first set win? All right, folks, in game number three now underway. Jay refusing to change here. Looks like we're seeing the same deck with a couple of changes. Yarm in the opener. Uh-oh.
That really really hurts to see your mulligan come back with 2 9 gold cards At the same time, for all we know, JJJ is gonna hit turn turn 9. He's gonna be able to just combo into all three of
Oh.
these back to back to back. I really doubt that's what's gonna happen because vesaven is such an aggressive player. I wonder if he's gonna remember the restart policy. He could restart right now. He has until vesaven ends his next turn to restart.
Looks like he's going for it. He's confident, man. He's confident.
I mean, I personally would have restarted, but it's at this point it's too late.
Alright, so of course it looks like Priest connects with the Miner there. Cleric comes out. Pretty much all of Jay's early game is on the board, and if Vasa can clear this one Cleric, he's got a clear shot to win this thing. White Knight for turn is a good start, but not enough yet. There's our old friend the Pillar.
I think I would move the the cleric. I would have moved it back more than just that, expecting some kind of buff. Simply so that way I could, yeah, there's the buff, and it's the Inferno, unfortunately, which is really good against Freezing Pillar, but...
Ooh, make it 2 at that. Really putting Freezing Pillar on a limited clock here if we are to use it. If we throw it down now, it does give...
I think that Terrius is actually a good play.
Yeah, I agree. Taurus is a better play here. Sure, I think Vasa can reach it with the Inferno, but does he want to put himself in that position? Looks like he's going to. He's going to opt to just kind of throw it all against the wall. Following up with a Furnace Knight, very risky considering that we know Freezing Pillar is probably going to go down this turn.
I think that the Furnace Knight isn't too bad of a play, especially because of the Inferno on it. I think the biggest question is almost I don't see a way out of this for Triple J.
No,
he's going to be doing the damage, but in many ways, this is just a reverse base race where each player is, well, where vesaven is just on face racing to do damage against JJJ, who has all the win conditions in his hand already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of surviving here for JJJ, and if he does, it's just game over.
Now my question, okay, so we did answer my question. My question is, what is he going to get really aggressive here and follow up with the double Inferno, so where each Inferno is kind of counteracting each other a bit and weakening themselves? Looks like he is going to take that opportunity just to kind of get in for as much damage as possible. He does have another turn left as Jay if all of this Inferno plays out the way I'm thinking. Yep, just like that. And of course, Furnace Knight not enough to do it. Lumi could end it, but is that sitting in the hand?
I think any sort of burn, which I know he runs at least 3. I think this is he has a 2-window room until he can get Arbiters out, and I think that vesaven has too long to be able to lose this almost.
Just kind of clean it up in that one moment here. Blue Fire, yeah, the exclamation point here, kind of, oh, in the armory. Really just shutting down any sort of window. I think, no. Even the monk doesn't do it. He has to freeze the white.
You can't even clean up at 7/7.
Yeah, you can't really do. The best you can do is take out the Furnace Knight, but the white's more than beefy enough to, even with the Inferno, to just bop castle for the remaining health. And that will be a quick game number 3 going in vesaven's favor.
Just the sheer aggression, not able to have any kind of impact because of that Inferno there, which really just the power that you can see of that simple buff.
Yeah, just and even with something like Freezing Pillar, which we knew was really a strong card for Jay in game 1. Unfortunately, it just did not pull through here for game 3, just with the Inferno. If we saw that game 1, it would be interesting, but I mean, I think we proved game 3 how valuable it is against Freezing Pillar to have, especially in a deck like this. So I mean, with that being with that being said, my English is still being butchered. You want to go ahead and jump to the post match here, see how these guys played game 3?
Absolutely.
All right. All right, folks, in game number 3 coming to a close. Quite a quick and unceremonial way to end off this set, but I mean, what happens, happens. And Vasa coming in to prove that Unga Bunga White Knight is still as powerful as ever, especially when your opponent pulls the way they did. I kind of just feel bad for Jay here. This wasn't really a matchup determined by skill, more or less. It was just, hey, look at my 8 and 9 gold cards I cannot use for the turn. It was sort of like, I think, what you said in the matchup, a base race that Vesa had a clear way of winning just throughout the entirety of it. You know, once it got to a certain point where you saw the big furnace, not furnace, the big white knight followed up by the furnace, I just think there was no way that Jay could recover, especially seeing what he kept pulling for turn.
I think also that we see that that the nerf that we've seen in the last patch where Flame Shield Inferno was reduced by 1 was actually very important here, because we saw that the Inferno is actually what won in the game. Being able to clear up that freezing pillar by having Inferno on a unit was so vitally important to vesaven there, and that ironically it actually is a good effect to have on a unit in some cases, and where there's no friendly fire and simply sitting on face, it did that 4 damage, and it allowed him to end the game 1 turn sooner. It allowed him to stop any turn 9 aggression. It allowed him to stop almost anything from coming out, and it was just so powerful coming out from vesaven.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying right now makes total sense, and I completely agree with it. If we had saw just Vesa let a turn, like just a turn later, go by, we could have seen big things like Yenaroth, Arbiter, and maybe even Jay equalize the board. But obviously, that did not turn out the way it did. Flame Shield and Inferno coming in very clutch here for Vesa, and it does allow him to get the set win. And very nicely done by Vesa, despite the questionable plays that he made in Game 2. Vesa, I forgive you. Please don't hurt me as we move into our interviews. Slash, you want to get to the players?
Yeah, let's do that.
Alright guys, and welcome back. Game number 3 has ended, and of course we're back with the players. Vesa, how you feeling? Set win for you? I mean, after what happened last time, you must be feeling pretty good to get back in the win column.
Yeah, it's good to come back, like you said, to the win column. And
Right. And, I mean, listen, we saw your old nemesis again, the Freezing Pillars, obviously. What is going to get your thoughts on them, just because I know you really appreciate the card so much, and you love the way it's designed. Tell us about how you felt seeing the Pillars in Games 1 and 3.
Well, it made me mad in Game 1. 3, I had the blue firebolt, even though I didn't end up going like I Inferno.
Yeah, it feels like Inferno did a lot for you in that game. Do you find that it's a regular option that you go to with this deck?
I think I maybe run 2 of this nights and then the buff. So that game was probably a little bit unusual. I don't think that I draw that much of that, but it really, like you said, about probably be the reason why I won.
Right. And I mean, obviously, Game 2, we saw you actually, amazingly dominate with the green-white. So, again, happy to see you back in the win column here. Slash, anything for Vesa here? 'Cause listen, you know me, man. Once I run out of material, I run out of material.
Yeah. Why is there exact reasoning or precise idea behind having Infernite, or is it just simply it's an all-rounder, what rounds out your deck well?
I think that it's good value at 5 gold. I think it's I think it's an under card. And Knight, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's really like a heavy Knights deck, but there are enough Knights for me to run. I think it's just 1 copy of so like I said, I just like the value at 5 gold in the stats with the info. I think it's just
That's fair.
So you did mention that you only run 1 copy of Luminaris. I know you're an avid deck builder, and you think that's your greatest strength of the game. How would you say that Luminaris is an overvalued card then?
I think that it's debatable if you should run 1 or 2, and I think there's good arguments for both. But I do not like Lumi in a deck, because I just find myself having to hold that card too often, and especially when I get multiple copies, I just find it hard to be able to use it every single time that I have it. obviously, it can, sometimes it's the card that you absolutely want, but a lot of times I want more diversity in my hand, and that's the reason why only one copy made it into this list. I will say that I think two could, I think two is correct.
Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, that sounds interesting. Excited to see if that pops into future matches. Over on the other side of things, though, Jay, unfortunately, not able to pick up the win here. How are you feeling? I mean, deck had some interesting draws, to say the least, so I imagine you're not really feeling too swell about that. I mean, talk to me about game one, the pillar game, the one that I feel like you probably walked away the most confident from. How'd you feel about that matchup?
So essentially, Vesa misplayed in the first game, like majorly misplayed. He spent 2 blue fire bolts on 2 books, which is always a mistake because book does nothing. And you should always, like, there is exactly one card in the whole game which allows you to reliably remove anything. That's blue fire bolt. That's like the only good card to remove anything. The only good removal. Now, Vesa spent 2 of them, and I could have reliably placed my freezing pillars, because I knew he probably isn't gonna have them. I also tried playing around Looney, but I failed. What else?
I mean, I just think you had better value that game.
I mean, I just had freezing pillar in the head at the start of the game. Yeah, that's it.
Unfortunately, I'm not so lucky with games 2 and 3. Probably, I think the one that was the most interesting one was game 2. Shotgunning a couple of cards, like Lightning Blade and Fortify on that one Priest. I mean, we understood the Lightning Blade to remove the hovel, but why shotgun the extra Fortify? Why reveal that when you have things like, 2 global buffs on the board that can give a later game unit the stats necessary to take out something like that 5/8 Priest quite easily?
So there was a Priest 5/6, I believe.
Yes.
There was like 3/2, and the Blacksmith. So I didn't want the Priest to be taken out by 2 rats. That's that simple.
I mean, I guess that is fair. It just seems a little bit of a shotgun in the moment kind of thing. Just playing all the cards to kind of keep units alive. But
No, I was thinking about playing it last turn on the like, how's it called? The 3 gold 2/4, which was 2/5.
the cleric.
Yeah, the cleric. I was considering to playing on the cleric on the turn before, but I didn't,
Right.
because I didn't think it's worth of value.
Right. See, I mean, fair enough. Sometimes it's just not valuable in the heat of the moment. Meanwhile, that's gonna be it from me. Slash, anything for Jay?
Yeah. Did you think that possibly, if you had, say, started with a better mulligan game 3, you possibly might have won that one?
Yeah. It's just that my legs and hands and head and everything was braked in the 7th. And I sank.
Yeah.
I mean, it just comes down to sometimes the card's not treating you right.
Yeah, in game 2, do you think Freezing Pillar would have helped you there at all?
In game 2?
Yeah.
No, actually I needed, like, not Freezing Pillar, but Yana. I haven't seen a Yana Roth at all in first 2 games. Except the 3rd one.
Yeah, that's not what you wanted to see on your mulligan.
Yeah. So,
Oh boy, but
what
still,
happened?
fun games nonetheless here. So with that being said, folks, let's go ahead and take you guys to the leaderboards to show you how this game, and this set, excuse me, affects our current standings.